get an idea. Now, I read this. What I use is a Christian Standard Bible. So if it's confusing to you, try to read along with your version and just listen. Then it's okay just to listen. After Jesus had said these things, he went out with his disciples across the Kidron Valley, where there was a garden. This is what we were just reading about. Same story. And he and his disciples went into it. Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place because Jesus often met there with his disciples. So Judas took a company of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and the Pharisees and came there with lanterns, torches, and weapons. Then Jesus, knowing everything that was about to happen to him, went out and said to them, "Who is it that you're seeking?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they answered. "I am he." Jesus told them, Judas, who betrayed him, was also standing with them. When Jesus told them, "I am he," they stepped back and fell to the ground. Then he asked them again, "Who is it that you're seeking?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they said. "I told you I am he," Jesus replied. "So if you're looking for me, let these men go," that it was fulfilled, the words that he said, "I have not lost one of those you have given me." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. And that Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword away. Am I not to drink the cup the Father has given me?" Verse 12 says, Then the company of soldiers, the commander, and the Jewish officials arrested Jesus and tied him up. First they led him to Ananias, since he was the father-in-law of Cephas, who was high priest that year. Cephas was the one who advised the Jews that it would be better for one man to die for the people. Simon Peter was following Jesus as with another disciple. That disciple was an acquaintance of the high priest, so he went with Jesus into the high priest's courtyard. But Peter remained standing outside by the door. So the other disciples, the one known to the high priest, went out and spoke to the girl who was the doorkeeper and brought Peter in. Then the servant girl who was the doorkeeper said to Peter, "You aren't one of this man's disciples, too, are you?" "I am not," he said. Now the servant and the officials have made a charcoal fire because it was cold. They were standing there warming themselves, and Peter was standing with them warming himself. The high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. "I've spoken openly to the world," Jesus answered him. "I have always taught in the synagogues and in the temple where all the Jews congregate. I haven't spoken anything in secret. Why do you question me? Question those who heard what I told them. Look, they know what I said." Verse 22 says, when he had said these things, one of the officials standing by slapped Jesus. "Is this the way you answer the high priest?"
For prayer this morning?
"If I had spoken wrongly," Jesus answered them, "give evidence about the wrongdoing. But if I rightly spoke, why do you hit me?" Then Ananias sent him bound to Cephas, the high priest. I'm going to stop there for just a moment. No, actually, I'm going to go down to 27. Now Peter was standing and warming himself, and they said to him, "Aren't you one of the disciples too?" He denied it and said, "I am not." One of the high priest's servants, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, said, "Didn't I see you with him in the garden?" Peter denied it, and immediately the rooster crowed. Familiar story, I know. It's a familiar story. You've heard it before, but have you heard it set up like that, to where Peter was following at a distance, as we've seen just before that, just following him at a distance? And some things I want to point out here. This is important stuff, because
so that's great.
We've got to stay on the heels of Christ. We have to. And if you're not on the heels of Christ, you're not following him so closely right now,
Remember Brother
You
John?
smell his presence.
Ray Carter?
And you need to get there. You need to pursue
Just
him.
remember
And
being
whatever
on
it
the
is that's
other
in
side
your way,
just
remove
going
it
home.
and get to him.
He's in Atlanta.
You know, verse 11, it says, and that Jesus said to Peter, put your sword away. I am not to drink the cup the Father giveth me. You know,
Cincinnati.
it wasn't a physical cup that God had given him, and it wasn't a physical drink that he had given him. He's speaking of spiritual matters here. And to drink something, what he's referring to here, it's a word, it's a kino, and it means to take into one's soul, right? To take into one's soul. And you know, when he talks of, am I to drink the cup? And the cup itself, that means a divine appointment. So we all have something that God has given us that we need to take into our souls that is a divine appointment. We all have a purpose in this life. We all have that. You know, Christ's purpose was to come and to be able to set up God's kingdom here on earth. And he did that by the cross. What's your purpose this morning? You have a divine appointment with God this morning. You have something here on this earth that you are supposed to be doing. You have a cup and a drink this morning. You do. Drink means something that you're to receive into your soul, who you are. And the cup means a divine appointment. What's God's calling on your life? What are you supposed to be for God this morning? Who are you? In God's eyes, how has he shaped you this morning? What talents has he given you? What thing can you do better than most people? That could be your divine appointment, the things that God has set you up. Now you have to drink it deeply into your soul. Own it. Be that person God has designed you to be. Be that person, because there's only one of you. You have a purpose in God's kingdom this morning. There's only one of you. God needs you to do what he called you to do. He does. He does. We all work together in one body. We make up the body. And God has designed us to be this way for a reason. We all have talents. We all have jobs. Most of us. And I say most of us because most of the work in the church is only done by a small amount of people. Most people don't fulfill their purpose. They assume it's the preacher's job, the elder's job, a pastor's job. They assume it's somebody else's job, and they step back and become a spectator. I'm not comfortable with that. I won't allow you to know that it's okay to be a spectator. You're not just a spectator. You have a purpose. It doesn't mean that you got to come in on Sundays and do things. I'm talking about every single day of your life. God has a job for you, a purpose for you. When you drink it into your soul, and you understand your purpose in life, you're fulfilling a divine appointment. Now, moving on a little bit, though. I want to point out something here. Verse 15 and 16. You know, Simon Peter was following with him and another disciple. That other disciple, I've read a lot about this, and I'm pretty well set on what other people are saying. Other scholars are saying this is John. You know, John is mentioned with Peter in a lot of different places. John is known to have known the high priest, so there's really no reason to suspect that this is not John. So, you know, this goes on to say, the other disciple, even in Acts, I think chapter 4, verse 6 or 8, it talks about Peter and John and Cephas being together. They are mentioned in the same scriptures a lot. So there's no reason not to think that this isn't John. So the other disciple, I've come to the conclusion, is John. Now, verse 21. Verse 21 reads like this. Why do you question me? Question those who heard me, what I told them. And look, they know what I said. John was on the outside, walking in. You know, you imagine the courtyard. Imagine this courtyard that's sealed from the outside. You got the courtyard itself is separated from the rest, and then of course you have the building itself inside the courtyard. John knows Cephas. John goes to a lady that's there, that's controlling the in and outs of the situation. She's a servant, and she is the doorkeeper, so to speak. And so John goes in, and then John comes back out and talks to her and says, "Well, Peter, he's coming in too. Bringing him with me." So it's not like the people inside there didn't know. John knows Cephas, and everybody knows John follows Christ. It's not a secret here that John is inside and John is a disciple. That's not a secret. All right. Not everybody knows that Peter is a disciple, though. So it's not like, and I know that people have spoken, well, Peter was so afraid that he didn't want to say anything. Well, this kind of, if you read what the scripture says, John was there. John knew Cephas. Everybody knew John was a disciple. I don't know if it was necessarily fear on Peter's his part. I don't know if it was necessarily fear that kept him from saying, I am a disciple. But something inside of him kept him from saying he was a disciple. I don't know. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was. Maybe because he didn't have a connection with Cephas. Maybe it was. I don't know. But the point I'm making is they were inside this area where this was taking place. I know they were very close to Christ, and I'll prove it here how close in a moment. How they were so close they could see each other. I know that for a fact. I'll show you here in a moment where I get that from. They were so close that the happenings of what was going on there, it was pretty close. It was pretty close. And Christ is he's sitting there saying, he said, question those who heard me, what I told them. I read this, and this is what lifting out the meaning of Scripture is called eisegesis. When you lift it out, this is me lifting out some meaning of Scripture. I don't know if it's right or not. You read it, and I want to always challenge you to figure it out yourself. Don't take somebody's word for it. But I look at this, and I think they're questioning him, and he's sitting there. Christ knows everything. He knows John's there. He knows Peter's there. John knows Cephas. It's not like it's this huge auditorium. So he's looking at him. He says, "Well, question those who heard me." I wonder if they heard that. John and Peter. They're in pretty close proximity. I wonder if we would come to his defense. If we were in that situation, would we come to defend Christ and say, "He speaks truth"? And we stay silent and let the word go on and do what it's going to do. Those things. They set in my mind sometimes. And they just sit there and they stew. I wonder how brave we would be. Talk is cheap. How you live your life, that shows people. If you would be the one bold enough to stand up and say, I heard you, I believe, I follow closely. These things make me wonder. Yep, verse 22 says, it says that he had said these things, and one official standing by slapped Jesus. This puts me in mind too of how we live our life. What in your life would slap Christ in the face? What in your life? What do you do? What do you do in your life? When you look at your life, you're looking backwards. Nobody knows about you. You know who you are. You know what you do. You know what goes on in your head. What goes on in your head? What goes on in your life? What would you slap Christ in the face? What would you change if you could? If Christ was there with you, walking with you, what would you change in your daily routine? I suspect that maybe women wouldn't have to raise their brows in history. I suspect that women wouldn't have to take back what they said. I suspect that we may challenge ourselves a lot more if we really understood that Christ does walk with us. It's up to us how close we walk with Him. He wants to be in communion with us. He wants to be right there with us. Close. So what's slapping Christ right now in your life? I've wrestled with this. I just have. I've looked at this, and I know there's times in my life that I have done stupid things. I have said things that's inappropriate. I've said things that should not have been said. I've not done things that should have been done. I look back on it and I think, oof, that was a slap in the face to Christ. I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to feel that way anymore. So my pursuit of Christ has changed, not in fear. I'm not afraid, not in fear, but I have a reverence. Because I love God. I don't want to disappoint Him. I want to do right. That's my passion now. It's not, I tell you, and I'll make this statement, and it's not that I'll just make the statement, then I'll explain it. If hell was not in the equation, hell didn't exist, which I believe it's a real place and it really exists. But if hell was not in the equation, I would pursue God the same right now. I would pursue him the same way. Fear is not a reason to pursue God. Fall in love with God, and you'll pursue him. Now, hell is something that's real, but it's not my motivation. It doesn't stand the way it used to stand. I know lots of people, they came to Christ because they were scared of going to hell. That's the reason why I want to stay? No. I want to stay with Christ because I'm in love with Christ. I love what he stands for, what he does, and who he's made me into being. Now, verse 25, 26, 27, it speaks. Yeah, wait, you're almost stand up. Sorry, Margaret. It speaks of Peter warming himself, right? It speaks of him warming himself. He's near this barrel. They've started this barrel of fire. I say barrel. I don't know what it is. Whatever they had. It's my words. They start this fire, and Peter's over there warming himself. He's denying Christ. And I'm looking at this, and I gosh, I can't help but think, what are we warming ourselves by right now in our lives? What inferior flame are you near because you've lost your interior flame? What are you around right now that is keeping you warm? That you're kind of close to Christ, but you're following at a distance, but you're keeping yourself warm with something in your life. I don't know what it may be. It may be that you're pursuing a job, and you're pouring everything in that job, and that keeps you just warm enough. Or you're pursuing, trying to make your wife or your husband, your kids, putting them on a pedestal. I don't know what it would be. Maybe something that's bad. Maybe it's some type of drug or something that you're just pouring yourself into. But every time that flame goes down, it's leaving you feeling like, this is it? This is all? We don't have necessarily lust problems. We don't necessarily have commitment problems. What we do is we have heart problems inside. It hasn't been purified by God. We're not living a holy life. The problem is that we accept an inferior flame. We accept warming ourselves around an inferior flame in our life, and we look around and see that the distance between us and Christ is a lot further than it used to be because we've found this false warmth. We've put it into ourselves that this is going to make me happy, and when it ends, you're not fulfilled. The problem is we have fulfillment issues. We're not fulfilled. And it's not that Christ is letting us down. It's not that. It's that we have found comfort in something that's inferior to the flame that was inside of you that was burning at one time. That we've replaced Christ. We've replaced him with something that's inferior in our lives. And we're pursuing, and it could very well be church. It could be religion. It very well could be that I'm okay because I come and I do X, Y, and Z. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's what's inside of you. It's what's inside of you. Because there's, the Bible clearly teaches us, Christ himself said, there will be people that will look at me and say, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we cast out demons in your name? And what's he going to say? Somebody knows. What's he going to say? Depart from me. I never knew you. I never knew you. You can never, I don't think anyhow, each time I get close to Christ, I want more. You can never be close enough.
Well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
But you can follow at a distance and just go through the motions. It's a dangerous game that you be playing. A dangerous game because,
Everybody had a good week?
gosh, I don't want to be caught short. I don't want to be caught short.
2 people's had a good week. That's great. You're in a good place. You're in a good place.
Let's finish the story where
My
we
name is
began.
Daniel
now.
Castle, and I fill in occasionally for
Let's
Ben.
turn back
who's out.
to Luke 22,
And I like
54.
long walks on the beach. I enjoy it. No, I'm kidding. That's a different story. Listen, I wanted to welcome everybody this
Luke
morning.
22,
I hope
54.
that everyone's
We began here,
came here for the right reasons.
and it says,
Not
they
because you're
seized
supposed
him
to, not because
and led him
someone's
away
told you to, but
and
because
brought
you
him
wanna
into the
worship
high
God.
priest's house.
You're here to
Meanwhile,
be
Peter was
honest with
following
yourself,
at a
I hope.
distance.
You're here to
They lit a fire in the middle
gain a little
of the
information.
courtyard
Um,
and sat down together.
But really,
And Peter sat
you're
among
here
them.
to- not
When
for
a
you,
servant saw him
to
sitting
worship God.
in the light
That's her purpose.
and looked
That's why we come
closely at him,
together corporately
she said,
like this to worship God. It's not something
"This
that we're
man
just
was
supposed
with
to do.
him
It's not
too."
something that that,
this
that we are.
she said, this woman, this is
in
the doorkeeper
society are just
that
kind
we
of a
read about in
checkbox.
John
It's-
18.
We're here for a purpose.
But he denied it.
You turn me a
Woman,
little bit.
I don't know him.
What I'm looking at
After
this
a little
morning,
while,
and the reason
someone
why I
else
picked this is actually
saw
I
him
taught this in a
and
small
said,
group a couple months ago.
You're one of them too.
And this
read about
topic has just
him
been
and
on my
John.
mind. I can't get it out of my
Man,
head. So
I am not,
I have somebody,
Peter said.
maybe me, somebody.
About an hour later,
Somebody needs
another
to,
kept
to-
insisting.
needs to really
This
soak
man
into
was
this.
certainly with him, since he
the
is
idea
also a
of-
Galilean.
of following
This
at a
is
distance.
this is
You know,
the
that
relative
thought
of
following at a
Malchus,
distance. And so those of you that was,
the one that
was
has
in,
his ear
in
cut
that small group. I know
But
it
Peter
was
said,
maybe 15,
"Man,
15
I
or
don't
so
know
of you
what
that
you're
was there."
talking about. Immediately,
Kind of,
while he
you
was
know
still
where I'm going with
speaking,
this.
a rooster crowed.
You know where I'm going.
Now, this is what this next verse is what I was getting
I'm
at.
talking
I was
about
reading
my,
in John.
my
I was telling you
personal
that they were
experience a
so
little bit
close
here, not
they could see
necessarily
each
you.
other.
But there was a
Here's
time
why
in my life.
I say that.
Um,
Then the Lord turned and
that I
looked
started,
at Peter.
you know, up here.
And so Peter
Christ.
remembered the word
And
of
then,
the Lord, of how he
Life happened.
had said to
I
him,
happened. I don't know
before
what
the
happened,
rooster
but
crows today,
it kinda
you will
went down
deny
here.
me 3
I
times.
started.
Now,
I started,
it says the Lord turned and
following
looked
at a
at Peter.
distance.
The NIV says, it says
I
it
can
like
say
this. It says,
now
he looked straight
that I
at
am
him.
closer to Christ than I
They
ever
were so
have
close
been in my
that,
life right now.
I mean, can you imagine if
And I'm thankful
Peter
for that. I'm very thankful for that. But
said
I can't
those
say,
things?
I'm not going to stand here
If
before you.
Peter-
said
the Bible
here
doesn't
before
say
you. I
that,
told
but I
Margaret
just
I was
look at
gonna
this in
try
my
to sit
head,
the
in
whole
my
time.
mind.
We'll
I'm
see how long
thinking,
it works.
boy, if
But
Peter said those things, the Christ, the Bible says Christ turned.
and tell you that it's always been
Imagine
an
if they made eye
upward
contact at that moment.
thing. It hasn't been. It hasn't
And
been always
immediately,
upward for
like
me. I
that,
wish I
that
could
was a
say
very
it's
good-
always been.
like
I've
that.
always went, stood up
He
and
remembered.
went a little further each time.
He remembered.
But there was times that I took a
Can
dip.
imagine being in that
There's
position.
times that I
where
wasn't following as
he's
closely
in there.
as,
He's
as I should have
I
been.
don't know,
There's
for
times
whatever
that
reason, he's
I was where
denying
you're at and say,
Christ.
I'm
He's
closer
looking
to
at him and
Christ
he's
now
saying,
than I ever have been in my life.
I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't here. I'm not that guy. I don't know what you're talking about.
But if you can look back
No, you didn't see me doing this, or
on
no,
your
you didn't
life
see me
and
doing
say,
that.
you know what, there was a time I
And Christ
remember.
looks-
There was a time
Oh man,
that I
looks
absolutely
into his soul, no doubt. I
was
mean,
on
deep
fire for God.
inside of him, and he
I just
remembers
don't feel it like I used
what
to.
Christ told him just a little
don't
while
feel
before
it like I used
the
to.
Last Supper.
Then,
He remembers
this sermon's for you.
his response.
This message, what God's
Really
word
should be our
says
response
is
in a lot
for
of
you
things.
This morning. So let's
His
go ahead and let's turn
response
to Luke 22:54, and we'll
understanding
start with,
that he was
reading the
wrong.
passage there. That's our beginning point.
I don't recommend doing exactly
And
what
we're
Peter
going
did.
to
He went
we're
fishing.
going to incorporate
I mean, fishing's a good thing and all,
a lot
but
of
when you're
things,
running from God, probably
probably
not.
three different
Peter,
books
but it
of
says
the
here in
Bible,
verse
the
62, he
Synoptic
says, and he
Gospels,
went outside
telling
and
the story.
wept.
The
bitterly.
story is about Peter, primarily.
part
is what
I
we're
get.
focused.
That part I understand. That part is where we need to be, is when we understand and realize that we have not been following Christ as closely as we should be. We should understand that it's time for a change. It's time for a broken heart. It's time for us to do something different. Now, I'm not going to leave Peter here. Because Peter went on to do great, great things. Peter went on to do a work that was just amazing. You read in Acts, and you read in 1 Peter and 2 Peter, and he did amazing things. The reason I'll tell you that is it's not too late. It's not too late for you. You could be on fire again. You can have that interior flame burning. You can be that person again. If you've never been that person, you can be that person. Look where Peter came from. Look at him. Look, he denied Christ. He denied he even knew him. And Christ took him and loved him and brought him back into the fold and said, you know what? I've got a cup you need to drink. You have a purpose for your life. You have talents. You have these amazing things. And I want you to do it. Be yourself, Peter. Be the rock. Be that Petra rock. Be that. So we'll close with those thoughts, those ideas, that God has a reason that you're here. He has a reason. We get at times. I know we get sometimes we get drawn away, and things get in our way, and then all of a sudden we look around and say, "What happened to me?" I've been there. I've been that person. I'm not looking down on anyone that's been there, because I've been in that exact same position. But I also know, like Peter does, that Christ will take you, pick you up, dust you off, and set you on your mission. So we're going to open up the altar this morning. And if God has spoken to you this morning and there's something that you need to get off your chest and speak with Him about, this is between you and Him. Okay? This is not not you admitting, oh, I've fallen away. It's not nothing. This is you speaking to God, saying, God, I love you and I need you. So let's all stand and let's listen to this song. And if God puts it on your heart to move, then move. Come and pray. God loves you. He loves you.
Now I'm coming home. The paths of sin too long I've trod. Lord, I'm coming home. Coming home. Coming home. Never more to roam. Open wide thine arms of love. Lord, I'm coming home.
I hope that you listen to God. I really do. You getting back on track with God doesn't have to happen here. Take this with you. Apply it. Look inside this week. And if there's an area that you need to improve on, just do it. Christ says, get up. Let's go. It's time. That's what He's saying to you. Does anybody have anything before we dismiss? Go ahead.
If you don't mind, I have another prayer request. My cousin Shelley, her son, he's stationed in Kuwait, but they put him on a plane yesterday and they don't know where he went. Don't know what's going on.
Sure.
So just keep my cousin and her family.
Absolutely. I know it's hard to deal with. Absolutely. Remember that soldier. Anyone else have anything before we dismiss? Johnny Jones, would you please dismiss us? Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for being in your house this morning. Lord, thank you for giving us help that we could be here. Lord, we pray for those that couldn't be. Lord, I just hope that Daniel's message, Lord, that you're already working on hearts. Heavenly Father, only you can. Lord, as our servant, as we are your servants, Lord, we hope we can grow closer to you, as Daniel talked about. Heavenly Father, help us to be close and not far away. And even though the story talks about today that we saw Peter was at a distance, that wasn't where he stayed, Heavenly Father, because he has a much greater story after he denied Jesus and after Jesus left. Peter became the rock and the foundation upon which the church was built. So thankful, Heavenly Father, that we see that Peter's human. Sometimes he made mistakes just as we do. But thankful, Heavenly Father, for the example, Lord, of where he ended up. Help us, Lord, in our walk, Lord, that we want to be close to you. And help us, Heavenly Father, and help us to understand that we can only do that by knowing your word, Heavenly Father, and following your will. Thank you for the God that you are, for the Son that you sent, Lord, and his sacrifice, and just the blessings, Heavenly Father, that we have by knowing Jesus, and hoping, Lord, those that don't will come to know him even today. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I wasted many precious years. Now I'm coming home. I now repent with bitter tears. Lord, I'm coming home. Coming home. Coming home. Never more to roam. Open wide thine arms Lord, I'm coming home.
Yes, it was.